This is the Concord Municipal Affordable Housing Trust. It's Tuesday, March 28th, 2023. It is 5:01 p.m. and we will start with the first order of business, which is a call to order by roll call. Linda Escobedo is absent. Mike Lawson.
Present.
Rich Feely.
Present.
Carrie LaFleur also absent currently, and Keith Bergman present. So three of us are here. We also have Concord Director of Planning and Land Management, Marcia Rasmussen, and others on the call. Next item is approval of minutes, and I have three sets that I sent out last Thursday for February 22nd, March 8th, and March 14th. And I didn't know if we wanted to proceed with those, if there were any edits.
There are two for the 8th, both of which are the problem with either autocomplete or spell check. They're real words, but they're the wrong words. And one, it's about halfway down, I don't have it in front of me, where it says acting, it should be affecting, and one says here, and it should be her. I think referring to something that either Liz or Linda said, or possibly Gary.
Very good. I'll make those notes on the 8th of March. Thank you. I guess let's see, let me just take another look. The 22nd, just in terms of we've got three members here, but and so a 3-1, if there were a couple, I think there was one meeting that Mike was absent, or two actually, the March 8th and March 14th.
That's both the March meetings.
So we should probably not let's see, it would be two, if Mike abstains, it's two members voting. We have less than a quorum. Why don't we see if Carrie might be on, if we might get one more member during the meeting, and I'll come back to the minutes.
Well, I can move to approve the 20 minutes of the 22nd.
Mike moves to approve the 22nd. Is there, and then that's seconded by Rich. And so on that motion, roll call. Mike.
Aye.
Rich.
Aye.
Keith. Aye. Okay, so those minutes are approved. Thank you. Next item is preparing for the Concord Housing Roundtable and Housing Production Plan Progress Reports. The roundtable will convene on Wednesday, April 12th at 7 p.m. It'll include the Select Board, Planning Board, and a host of other committees, and including all the housing groups. So we're looking forward to that. What I wanted to do for this meeting is just quickly debrief on some for starters on the March 20th Select Board meeting. And there's Carrie LaFleur present. Okay, very good. Thank you. Joined the meeting at 5:05. I wonder if we could go back just we have two sets of minutes that we want to be able to vote on now that with Carrie here, and that was, there we go. We have Minutes of March 8th and March 14th. Now, let me just see if, let me check those. March 8th, Carrie was not here. March 14th, we could vote on those. If were there any amendments or edits to the March 14th minutes?
Nope.
Right.
Move approval.
Motion by Rich to approve the March 14th minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. There is a second. And is there discussion? All right, let's take a roll call vote. And these are the March 14th minutes. I have Mike down as being absent at that meeting. Okay. So let's see, on that motion, Mike,
Abstain.
Rich,
Yay.
Carrie,
Yes.
and Keith. Yeah, so that's 301. And thank you for that vote. Okay, March 14th, 301. Okay. Now, back to the prepping for the Concord Housing Roundtable, I thought it was an excellent discussion at the Select Board's meeting on March 20th. That Marcia and Liz and I gave an overview of the what was in store with the Housing Roundtable and sort of what the expectations are, that there are various entities that are assigned by the plan itself as lead entities. What I saw was the selectmen really diving into that responsibility, and I think it was an excellent preparation. That meeting was an excellent preparation for them for March 28th. So that, as much as anything, I think is going to make it successful. I don't know if there was any other feedback from folks on this call about that select board meeting. One of the things we're going to do is there were some proposed edits to the matrix that had been drafted, which shows the goals. It lists the strategies down one side, and then it lists the various boards, and there are lots of columns checked off, and there were some edits proposed during the discussion. Liz Rust had a chance to look at a revised draft, and we'll distribute that. It frankly added some more columns. One of the things for the future, just I wanted to call to Carrie's attention, the discussion on the 20th of March, the select board made the suggestion that we add a column indicating which staff person would be assigned as a lead for the various strategies. And I put the column in, but if there were any assignments to be made, those are the town managers. So if there's any input on that that's appropriate, that we'd be happy to include that. And it's again, we're looking towards the Wednesday, April 12th meeting of the Concord Housing Roundtable. It's going to be at going to be a hybrid meeting. I have every hope that the governor will sign the bill that the House and Senate have now passed, which allows virtual meetings to continue for another 2 years. It'll be a hybrid meeting in person at the Harvey Wheeler Community Center and virtually on Zoom. So hope to have a lot of participation. I'm on Nantucket now. I'm coming off island for that, for a number of meetings that I've got that week, and we'll be sure to be there in person and look forward to it. Also wanted to just mention that there were a couple of other meetings of interest that I had a chance to go to one, but not the other, when housing came up. First was the on Wednesday, March 22nd, the DEI Commission hosted a building a welcoming community, where Liz Rust and I had a chance to be part of a panel discussion with Representative Carmen Gentile and Representative Simon Cataldo, and lots of opportunities to talk about housing and to tell people that they ought to come to town meeting, that they ought to go to tomorrow night's planning board meeting and housing roundtable, and lots of other opportunities to get involved. And the last one I wanted to mention was the League of Women had a "How did this happen?" that Stefan Bader is on the call here, moderated. I had a chance to start watching the video. It was last Saturday with both Senator Barrett as well as both representatives were there, along with Jennifer Polito from the Housing Authority. So lots of information getting out, lots of discussions going on in Concord. Anything else that anyone wanted to mention about preparing for the Concord Housing Roundtable? One thing I'm going to ask, I'll contact Liz, is that it should be posted. I don't think I saw the meeting posted yet, and I'm not sure if individual boards would be asked to contribute things to an agenda, or whether the agenda would simply be going over the housing production plan and maybe updates, unstated updates from various boards. Any thoughts on? We're sort of if not the organizer, we're a designated lead for making sure that there is a housing roundtable. So I'll plan to talk to Liz and circulate a draft agenda and hopefully get that posted so that it's on the town website calendar and folks are planning for it. All right. I see Stefan now. Hello.
Hi, I'm working at polling station precinct 1, so I'm in and out of the conversation, but I'm trying to follow along as much as I can. I heard you say they posted of the meetings. Does each group have to submit their own proposal, or were you going to submit one for each?
Yeah, we're looking to submit a posting that lists all of the boards, that lists all the constituent boards, and it would, and I think it would probably say, something, we have introductions, talk about the progress on the housing production plan, and then if there are any updates that on particular projects that didn't, that didn't make their way into an update on a housing production plan strategy, then we'll invite that. Okay, great. Ready for the next item? All right, next item is to adopt recommendations on affordable housing articles on the 2023 annual town meeting warrant, just so that we can do that officially. And I wanted to offer that the articles we might want to consider. Let's talk about the financial ones first. That the Article 26, the Community Preservation Committee's article, has two housing projects. Item A for $33,000 for the Regional Housing Services Office for the coming year, and item B, $500,000 to CHDC for Assabet River Bluff. I think that we might want to take a formal position supporting those, as well as Articles 28 and 29, which transfer funds to the trust totaling $2,044,000 and change. And I was pleased to see, very pleased to see at the select board, watching the select board meeting last night, that the moderator had on her list, a draft list of consent calendar articles, our two articles, 28 and 29. And that the select board were expressed agreement with that. So those articles will be on the consent calendar. Will be, ready if they're pulled to make a presentation. But I appreciated that the consideration that those are viewed, dare I say, as non-controversial. So. Careful. But it's affordable housing. How can it not be controversial? So, but appreciate the support. So I wonder if there might be a motion to support the Article 26, the CPC. For the two projects I mentioned in Articles 28 and 29.
So moved.
And seconded.
Motion by Rich, second by Mike. Is there discussion? We'll do the zoning article next. All right, so let's do a roll call vote. Mike?
You're
Aye.
muted.
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Harry?
Aye.
And Keith, aye. So that's approved by unanimous vote. Then another article I'd like to put up for consideration is the zoning article, Article 35, which is the proposed amendment from the planning board that would make it more financially feasible for small combined business residence projects to include affordable housing. From the materials that were in the explanation in the warrant, it seems that the current bylaw hasn't produced any affordable housing, and the planning board and staff believes that tweaking it in the way it's proposed in Article 35 would stand a better chance of producing some affordable units.
And it also gives us some money if somebody to have to build a partial unit, which we don't have now.
Right. That's another excellent point, that the trust itself would be the beneficiary of the rounding error when the requirement for affordable units was a fraction and couldn't then we get the value of that. I'm on Nantucket. I won't be able to be physically present at tomorrow night's planning board meeting. I don't know if either if any of our members might be there. I can attend virtually, but
I'll go if I can. I've got a medical procedure tomorrow, but as long as I'm not walking into walls, I will go.
okay.
Keith, my biggest concern is that the Save Crosby's crowd is on this one now. And I think we have to, to me, it's a no-brainer to support it, but I think we've got to think how we can best communicate our support for it, because it will be controversial at town meeting. And, I find it a bit rich that people are worried about developers building luxury housing in Concord, but that's my view. So, I mean, I think we definitely should support it, but, you know, sometime before town meeting, I think we should brainstorm a bit about how to best support this. And also, I think we need to network with the environmental folks and the elderly folks and people like that, so that it's not just housing interests that say, hey, this is a good idea. I doubt it will generate quite the opposition that the Save Crosby's movement generated, but there's still a core there that will support it.
Right.
We know we lost by 70 votes.
Yeah, I think it's a good, an excellent point about figuring out what the message is for mobilizing supporters. I raised at the DEI event last week, I raised the topic and urged people to go to the planning board meeting and go to town meeting. And there's a lot of enthusiasm from, there were, I don't know, were there 100 people there? It seemed like last week, but there.
Hard to be diverse and exclusive if you can't buy a house for less than $1 million.
Yeah. So I think that I think there's the opportunity to try to put together a coalition, a broad coalition of many groups that can say, hey, if our message to others is, if you want to support affordable housing, there's an opportunity to do that in this zoning article, and kind of come up with the elevator speech, perhaps with the assistance of the planning department, of what are the top things that we should be messaging. I hope that we can discuss that one as well at the housing roundtable during when all of the groups are together.
I think what would be helpful if Marcia or Liz could provide information on small projects that might have gone ahead, except they couldn't produce, 20% affordable units. That if you're building 4 units, you can't, cross subsidize one from the other 3. And, as I look around town, the obvious place to go are a lot of single family retail units that could become 2 or 3, like the area across from Crosby's, retail on the bottom, couple of floors of apartments on top. But Marcia, do we know of anybody who said, gee, I would have done it, but I can't do 4 units and, make one affordable?
We're having that conversation right now with Patrick Cleary about redevelopment of the former car dealership lot over in West Concord, 13B Commonwealth Ave. And he is actually proposing something a little more dense. So it would, and willing to provide the affordable housing. Concord Outfitters was the other one. The zoning was changed specifically to allow residential development on the 2nd floor. And there are other properties where they've talked about it, but they said it's not economic. So they haven't pursued it at all.
Yeah, I think we need somebody now, I don't know whether you can testify or you could just provide a letter that says, we have talked to developers of small projects who say they can't make it work with these.
We can provide that information for sure.
That's great.
Great, thanks very much. Shall we take a shall we make a motion anyway in support of Article 35 and go that far tonight?
Sure. I mean, I move that we support it.
I'll
Motion,
second it.
motion by Rich, seconded by Mike. Is there discussion? All right, so let's do a roll call vote on that motion. Mike,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Harry,
Aye.
and Keith. Aye, so that passes 4-0. And that was, I'm just writing my notes now, the motion by Rich, second by Mike. Okay, thank you. Next subject on our agenda is trustee reappointments to staggered terms. And this came, the subject of reappointments came up at the select board meeting. A recent select board meeting. They're starting to just be a blur of going from one to another, but where there was and it was reinforced at the chairs of the most recent chairs breakfast that the town staff would be notifying chairs of what or asking if there are vacancies coming up, or people aren't going to want to be reappointed. Could we let the town staff know that so that they can, start advertising for those positions? And the question that I had about it is, would we be would we be told when our the term expirations are, or reminded and asked to report back in a particular way? And I said, well, I know in the case of the trust, all 5 of us expire April 30, 2023. That we were not appointed to, or even though the bylaw says that the original terms were to be staggered, they weren't.
That was silly.
That could be handled by making the staggered terms the second time out. I mean, there are a couple of ways to do that. They could choose to do it. One is that they can go and amend the original appointments and make some 1 year and do 2 years. The main thing, though, is that we can either make suggestions, if again, assuming that all 5 of us want to be reappointed. And by the way, assuming that we're okay having 5 and that we don't want to propose 7, because the bylaw can be 5 to 7. And I hope at some point we have a discussion, like maybe when we have Linda here as well. I'd like us to think about, would we want to expand the size of the trust to have, I don't know, a little more diversity on the board. Some boards have and I'm not making inquiries, but some boards have renters on there. It tends to be a bunch of homeowners with gray hair.
Or no hair.
In any event, at some point, we don't have to do it tonight, but I just want to put out there this is.
I think, Keith, I have 2 quick thoughts on that. One, I think we should see if we can put together a plan and just hand it to the select board. I think that would be helpful to them.
Yeah.
They always struggle with this. And second, I think I'm right, I'm not positive. Does Linda come off the select board in April?
No,
No?
not this year. I think she's April 2024.
Well, I'm happy to volunteer, to be a 1-year appointment unless others want it. I mean, it's not that I'm not interested, and I would be interested in reappointment, but I agree, rather than having the select board wring their hands over this, I think a couple of us should just volunteer to be 1-year appointments, and then we'll see where we go. I think it probably doesn't make sense, Keith, for you to be a 1-year appointment, because this thing is so new that we probably would like a little more continuity, should the board not be interested in reappointing folks, but I'm perfectly willing to be one of the two of us who's only a one-year term.
Well, again, Linda is an appointment vis-a-vis being on the select board, so she can have a one-year term to end at the same time her select board appointment ends.
Well, I'd recommend we go to the select board with that plan. I think that's great.
So that, let me just see. So the motion could be to request that the select board vote pursuant to section 4 of the trust bylaw to reappoint 3 trust members to 2-year terms, i.e.
Bergman, Lawson, and LaFleur.
I didn't want to say my own name out loud, so thank you.
Okay, well, I'll say it for you.
Okay, thank you. And
Feeling has to be
3, and then 2 trust members to terms of 1 year, and that is Ely and Escobedo. So is that do we have the maker of that motion is, who'd like to be the maker? Rich?
Sure.
And seconded by? Mike. I see Mike's lips moving, so, okay. Seconded by Mike, okay. All right, is there further discussion about that? All right, so on that motion, roll call vote. Mike?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Barry?
Aye.
And Keith? Aye. So that is a 4-0 vote. Thank you. Thank you very much. Next item, and those are all the votes that I was hoping to get tonight, so that's great. Next item on the agenda is updating the trust policy guidelines, and I will, and I'll mention that at the March 20th select board meeting, when a general update was given about housing production plan, and I had a list of what the trust was up to, I did put in the list that we're in the process of updating our policy guidelines, which would require select board approval. Select board was fine with that, not, with if it was May when we could get to them. They're, booked between now and then, and I think May is probably going to be the earliest that we can. If May is when we would be able to be considered by the select board, then that gives us some more time to put those together.
I think, Mike, you sent a note, said you were comfortable with it, or did I hallucinate that? Linda identified 2 additional points, both of which I think I can include in a revised draft. One is she doesn't want this to be a sewer fund. In other words, she's saying essentially contribute to sewer expansion only to the extent that it gets us support.
Yeah.
And the other point, which I thought was a good one, is don't put all our money into something until we know that there is enough money available for the affordable housing piece of that. In other words, our calculus may be different if we know we have a transfer fee and a permit surcharge than if we're relying on, what we're probably not going to see much of, which is free cash.
Right. I had a thought about it, and I had not put this in writing, but that a year ago, we did an interim set of guidelines and said that they would be reviewed, they'd be revised in the future when the housing production plan is updated, and when and if the real estate transfer fee of building permit surcharge get adopted. I wonder if, since only one of those has happened thus far, the housing production plan, but not the others, not the, that since in the near future, we're going to have a finite observable amount of money. It's going to hopefully be the 2 million. We'll have a balance of $3 million after town meeting from the 2 million being transferred from prior appropriations for Christopher Heights. And then that's probably it. Along with whatever, hopefully we can get $500,000 a year in future years, but that's sort of it seems to me it's almost like another interim plan. If it was phase one, now we're at phase 1.5, where we have more money than $500,000 a year. We have a bump, which is not going to get repeated locally, and that what we might want to do is to make clearer what the particular priorities are for this finite set of money. That we can't be committing more than I think if we plan to commit beyond the 3 million that's in hand, plus maybe another $500,000 a year from now, but certainly for the coming year, 3 million, the 3,044,000, that's it. That's what we have. And so maybe what we do is to focus on what are the priorities for that particular amount of money, and which I would say would exclude sewer, but it would exclude I don't know what it would, I guess I shouldn't prejudge. I don't know what it's going to exclude, but it will exclude a lot because it doesn't buy much, or that we'll want to look at how we can get the most in the short term. And even the other discussion that we'd want to take into consideration is the best use of some of that $3 million, not to spend it in the next year, but to bank it for the bigger project that's going to need a bigger amount. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. We're not the only, fortunately, we're not the only entity in town that has money. The CPC will also have money. I think we'll want it to be a group decision between all of our housing partners of what's the best thing that we should, the best way that the trust should spend the money that we have. Just make one example, that if there's a big move with Junction Village and it needs say $5 million, maybe half of that can come from us, but the other half would need to come from somewhere else if it's locally. So anyway, those are some thoughts I had about maybe the focus is labeling it as further as an interim guidelines.
Yeah, well, and I think we could put something in there that says, in the selection criteria, that says, project selection shall be based upon the current balance and assured future income of the trust, and that at the moment it should be expended on something that is assured of getting the maximum number of units with the currently available balance, something like that. I mean, you still got to weasel word it a little bit. I agree with you. I think we go back and rethink things if we get, a steady $2 million a year plus whatever the CPC gives us.
Right. And I have a prejudice that in favor of our use of funds for projects that are in the housing production plan.
Yeah, well, that's already in there as a selection.
Yeah.
Well, I would volunteer to try and put all those, since we don't have to vote it tonight,
Right.
don't have Linda, I'd volunteer to put those three things in another draft. I mean, we're gonna get sick of multiple versions, but
Right.
I'll try and clean it up, and let's start from a clean version of what I have now, plus those three changes.
That would be very helpful.
Thanks.
Unless Mike or Terry have other things.
No, I like the idea of doing a second interim plan because I think our philosophy and our philosophy will be different once we have a continuing funding. Like right now, we have to have a prejudice for things that are in the housing production plan, but that they're ready to go. I don't think we have the luxury, or I would be uncomfortable committing funding, say to Junction Village 2, because we have the outstanding sewer issue. And it would be hard for us to tie up significant funding for years and then not be able to move forward on some other smaller items that, might become available, like the 91B Main Street.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, and one way to approach it might be if borrowing, and not that we would do the borrowing, but either the town with or CPC or whatever. But one way that you send the signal to the development community that you've got the money is to have a borrowing authorization from town meeting. And then if you're not ready to go, you don't spend it. But there are, because I don't want to have too much of that, what if, but I think that what Carrie has said makes sense, that we ought to focus, let's focus on the money we have and the housing production plan and see what that looks like. And for the future, hey, I'm getting excited every time I hear our Mike Barrett talk about what he thinks is going to happen, and because he's the guy, he's in the know, and he seems to be. He was telling the select board last night at their meeting that he's optimistic that there might be a statewide bill. He was asked how the home rule petitions looking, and it's it may end up be that a statewide bill looks better, and we'll see what comes of that. So all right, so we'll say thank you once again to Rich for volunteering to make a draft, and we'll schedule a discussion for a future meeting. Thanks so much. Next item is housing production project updates, and I just put this on in case there were any developments or late breaking word on any of the various projects, Assabet or Junction Village or the Housing Authority or 91B Main Street. And I see Marcia's on the call. I don't know if there's any more information about the 91B Main Street to share.
Well, I was moving forward with trying to get an appraisal done. I reached out to Avery Associates, John Avery. He is now a one-person show, and he has declined to work on this project because he's overly committed. So I'm seeking different recommendations on appraisers and looking into that. I just got that word back from John this week. So that's my next step, is to get an appraisal done for the property, and then we can begin negotiating with the state.
Great. Thanks very much, Marcia. Okay. And nothing new, Stefan, Housing Authority. Looks like he's not counting Ballas. I know that much. He's
No, nothing new on 1031 Main. That's we've got to talk to the condo folks and
okay.
see if we can find some common ground, but nothing new to report really.
Very good. Thanks so
Okay.
much.
Can I just ask Harry or Marcia, does the town plow Staffordshire Lane?
No, we don't. I've done some research on that project, and I've provided it to one of the property owners. That was developed as a rental project back by special permit back in the 1960s. The houses were not built until the early 1970s. The right of way is only 30 feet wide, which doesn't meet our criteria. We require at least 40 feet, if not 50 feet. So there are a lot of issues regarding that. And I think I'm not sure where things stand, but I've done some initial research for one of the property owners in that development.
And is there, I mean, that is the vehicle access to the current home, is it not?
It's always been there. The garage for the property was constructed prior to the houses being built. So that point of access has always been, they already have the right of access. Converting it to an additional dwelling unit, it should not be an issue. And so there are legal questions involved with all of that. I'm certainly not an attorney. I've just provided that information, and I think it requires some further investigation.
And maybe Stefan knows, but there's no documented easement for access.
No, there is a pre-existing situation where there was already access to the garage for that property on Main Street over the right of way that was created for Staffordshire, for the development behind Staffordshire Lane.
Marcia, if I might ask, could you share the information that you shared with the condo owners also?
Happy
With-
to.
with the
Who should I
house-
send that to, Stefan? You and
Rick Eifler,
Rick? Okay, Rick Eifler. Will do.
thank you.
All right. Thanks very much. Next item on the agenda is status of proposed legislation to fund the trust. I gave a preview just a moment ago, but I wanted to mention or give the floor to Rich to talk about LOHA and a couple of statewide bills, one sponsored by LOHA, the other not, if that's the case, for transfer fees, and just any information you'd like to share.
Well, I guess the good news was the Cape and Islands had a lobby day last week, turned up a reasonable number of people, and apparently, according to the Globe, got a positive statement from Senate President Spilka about the possibilities of passing it. And LOHA and the housing groups will have a lobby day probably in early May, and I'll let all the housing interests here know if you want to turn out. The statewide bill filed by Senator Comerford and Representative Connolly is permissive in such a way that there is no problem that I see with our, implementing our town transfer fee. The other bill which is out there is from Senator Sear, who represents, I don't know, is it all the Cape and Islands or a
Yes,
large piece of it? And his bill has what I would see as three problems. One is no problem, which is he's got $1 million floor, but so do we, so that's not a problem. The second one is the exemption for first-time home buyers. And that doesn't even have something that the LOHA bill does, which says you got to be a natural person. You can't be a special purpose corporation that this is the first house you bought. And that would be a problem for us, although it probably wouldn't greatly reduce our revenue. And the other big problem is that, and I understand where he's coming from, that he has a list of things and says, you can do this if you have 4 of the 7. See if I can remember them off the top of my head. One is showing commitment to affordable housing. I think the HPP, the fact that we didn't tell the MBTA to go do something unnatural about their MBTA zoning. So I think we meet that, and I think we meet the requirement. Well, okay, there's that. The next one was you have to adopt a CPA at 3% and commit 50% of that to housing or housing related infrastructure. And if I read this correctly, we only have 1.5%, and we, in the years I've been involved, don't go over 50% for housing. So we'd have trouble with that one. You have to, if you have a town add-on to the room tax, you have to spend at least 50% of that on affordable housing and related infrastructure. And I believe, if I looked at the state right, we have no add-on. We get some money, but I presume that's a mandatory share of the state, which is determined by some sort of formula. Is that correct, Carrie?
Can you say that again?
Okay, yeah. The requirement, one of the, you have to do 4 out of 7 in the SEER bill,
Yeah.
is that if you have a local add-on to the occupancy tax, you have to spend at least 50% of it. I couldn't find that we had a local add-on, do we?
So the room occupancy tax, we do have the local option.
Okay,
And you have
So-
to spend 50% on what though? That's the piece I missed.
affordable housing and related infrastructure. So you can,
Oh.
you could make a case if we put some of that into sewers. Then there's I'm sorry, go ahead, Carrie.
No, I was just gonna throw in a data point, so that the highest year, or the most we ever received in the rooms tax was in fiscal 19, and that was just under $900,000, but that was the highest year. So you could say 450 would be a maximum, I guess, that we would have to spend. And if we've been allocating 500 a year for affordable housing, I guess we're meeting that test.
Yeah, that's good. Then there's another one of the points is adopting the smart growth zoning, which I don't think we've done, have we, Marcia? Or Carrie?
No, we have not.
And then the other 2 are zoning related. One of which is that your residential zones, at least 50% have to be less than a half an acre.
Mhm.
So I don't think as I look at the map, zone C is not 50% of A, B, and C, correct?
Well, C is only 20,000. That's less than half an acre.
Right, but the other 2 are half
I mean,
acre.
I'm sorry, B is less than half an acre. C is 20,000 or quarter. I mean, I'm sorry. C is 10,000. B is 20,000. Those are both less than a half an acre. They're not differentiating builder's acre from a true half an acre. So a true half an acre is, I think, 21 and change. So we have two zones, B and C. Are they talking total area or lots?
Yes.
area.
Yeah, half of the
Okay.
town's residentially zoned area.
Then that's probably true.
Yeah,
It's less than 50%.
Right. And then the last one is that you have to have, I forget the exact percentage of your residential area zoned for multifamily. As I looked at it, it looked to me like it wasn't enough now, but maybe when we get done with the MBTA thing, will work.
Right.
So, you know, Senator, according to my sources at least, Senator Sears says he's flexible on those points and on the details in the bill. So I just think what we need to do is, if that becomes the basis for legislative action, we need to be sure that Senator Barrett is talking to Senator Sear, I think. And we give Senator Barrett the information he needs.
very good. So that's a good thing for us to keep an eye out for. It's like, you know, you gotta play to win, and we've got a home rule petition, we've got the LOHA bill, and if Senator Sears' bill is yet another opportunity to try to get a transfer, we want to make sure that we can win at, any of them. And so I think we'll have to take a look at Senator Sears' bill. I'll volunteer. I know Senator Sear he grew up on the Outer Cape and is a contemporary of my daughter's, and makes me, and there aren't a lot of kids out there. There weren't a lot of kids out there, so they're all, but Senator Sear is an excellent person to work with, to try to work it out, because he cares as much as anyone about finding a solution to the affordable housing problem. So look forward to trying to come to have his bill address be something that Concord could take advantage of. So thanks, Rich, for.
Keith, my question is, would you like me to do a redraft of that memo based on what I learned from Carrie and Marcia tonight?
Yeah, that would be great. I think it would be helpful to have some talking points for Senator Barrett, and I could use the elevator speech. Well, there aren't really a lot of elevators out here, but if I bump into Senator Sear and Nantucket and on the Cape, be glad to buttonhole him on this. So great, thank you.
I'll get something out and share it with the whole committee.
Thanks, Rich.
And Marcia and Liz. And
Thanks.
Stefan, if Stefan and Linda want it, I can share it with them.
Thank you. Next item, public comment. Do we have public comment? Thanks all for being here. And next item is to schedule the trust's next meeting. I would point out that let's see, today is 28th, and 2 weeks from tomorrow is the Housing Roundtable. So the question could be, do we feel the need to meet between now and the Housing Roundtable? Or shall the roundtable and the joint meeting be, or do we want to maybe try to maybe schedule a 6:30 meeting that night in case there's something in the event that we need to vote on something.
That's probably a good idea.
All right, so why don't we say Wednesday, April 12th at 6:30 PM for, as plug that in as give us half an hour on our own before the round table if we need to. Does that sound good?
Keith, could I ask, I think after that, and as, you know, we begin to see what's developing, particularly around the zoning piece, you know, before town meeting, I'm wondering if we should have a regular meeting to talk through strategy and support for anything that's going to be controversial, which is likely to be the zoning article.
Sure. There's, if we look at Wednesdays or Tuesdays, there are only two available. Let's say if it's a Wednesday, the 19th or the 20th, what is today? Today's Tuesday. So the 18th or the 25th would be the Tuesdays that would be open.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, is it possible procedurally for you to waive a meeting if there's nothing to do? In other words, I sort of agreeing with the idea to have one scheduled, but you know, if all we need to do is talk through things that are going to be talked through at the roundtable, maybe we don't need to do it. But we definitely, I think, ought to have a meeting before town meeting.
Okay, Stefan?
I just wanted to let you know, I'm sorry, I missed the public comment opportunity, but the Housing Authority is having their usual monthly meeting on the first Thursday of April, and at that point, we will discuss our support of housing articles, having heard also from the planning board public hearing tomorrow night. Or sorry, Thursday night, whatever it is. I was gonna say if the 25th of April is a little bit late, if you think that you might come out of that meeting with something that you want distributed at town meeting, that's kind of close in on the deadline for town meeting approval of papers on the table. I just wanted to mention that point.
Very good. Is there a preference on a date on that week of that's Patriots Day week, right? The holiday is the observance is the Monday the 17th. So
There's a Patriots Day vigil on the 18th at 7 PM. So I think we're usually done well in advance of that,
so would you want to say for Tuesday, April 18th at 5?
but if 5 to 6 works for me.
Yeah, 5 to 6.
Okay.
Okay, all right, so we will do that as well. Great. Thank you all. Okay, Tuesday, April 18th, 5 to 6 PM. Great. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Mike, second by Rich. All right. And we will do a roll call vote. Mike,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Harry,
I
and Keith, aye. So that is 4-0 vote. It is 6:05 PM. We are adjourned, and thank you all very much.
Thanks.
Goodbye, everyone.
Times, take care.